From the franchise's animated beginnings through 2018's prequel installment and soft reboot Bumblebee, get ready to relive all the highs and lows of one of Hollywood's most successful film series. Let's see how all the theatrically released Transformers movies stack up against each other. Transformers: The Last Knight is a troubling movie. Sure, there are scattered flashes of brilliance, like the scene when Megatron negotiates the release of his crewmates, which does a great job of showing the unique personalities of the characters. It also has a cohesive tone that cleverly leans on the humorous absurdity of transforming robots interacting with humans, and features some really striking dynamic camera shots that make every moment visually engaging. However, the film's good scenes are vastly outnumbered by bad ones, thanks to its bizarre storyline, which entangles the history of the Transformers with the Knights of the Round Table. The central cog of the plot doesn't make a lick of sense and retroactively undoes things we've seen in the previous 4 movies, showing the writers couldn't care less about the series' story up to this point. And those aren't the only quality control issues in the film. There are actual shots that made it into the final cut that have cameramen in them. The aspect ratio constantly changes because no one bothered to consider that a constantly changing border might be distracting to viewers. Some central characters are completely useless, and major plot points are consistently underdeveloped and lazily executed, like Bumblebee's and Optimus's climactic face-off. In short, most of The Last Knight represents a sloppily produced missed opportunity. Transformers: Age of Extinction's human characters all lack compelling motivation and have personalities that range from infuriatingly annoying to painfully cringeworthy. And the insufferable humans get the lion's share of screen time because, besides Optimus and Bumblebee, no Transformer gets a real spotlight. Take the Dinobots, for example. This movie promoted the heck out of them, and yet they're only in the final 30 minutes of the film, and even then, only in a few big shots. The plot is another problem, since it undoes much of the story that the previous 3 Transformers movies established. It's not done in a crafty way either. The movie just presents its retroactive changes to the series' continuity and pretends no one will notice. This movie really puts the stink in Extinction. Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen is a tricky one. Although critics absolutely blasted it, fans remain divided. On one hand, it has the allure of Megan Fox's Michaela Baines and goofball charm of Shia LaBeouf's Sam Witwicky. It also features a lot of top-tier CGI action and epic fights, such as the forest battle when Optimus Prime dies defending against multiple Decepticons. Plus, as is guaranteed with any Michael Bay film, the cinematography is as stylish and stereotypically Hollywood as it gets. For fans of pretty actors, likable enough characters, gorgeous cinematography, and mind-numbingly bombastic action, there's a lot to love in Revenge of the Fallen. However, this movie is also loaded with a lot of not-so-great elements. The plot contradicts itself constantly. Some of the characters, both human and robot, are pretty obnoxious. There's a lot of crude and unnecessary humor, and the tone oscillates between serious action drama and a juvenile comedy too clumsily for anything to be taken seriously or humorously. Blame the farting airplane robot.
Dignity! Damn it!
With that in mind, if you want some incredible CGI action featuring transforming robots, both of the farting and non-farting variety, Revenge of the Fallen can still be a fun time. Though it fails to hold up by today's standards for animated sci-fi flicks, when observed as a relic of 1986 and an ode to the Transformers toys, Transformers the movie does a solid job. Beyond its fan-pleasing, ultra-expansive cast of transforming robots, it has other merits, such as its plot. This movie's story goes to some very Game of Thrones-like places in the way that's wholly befitting of the Transformers' perpetual civil war. Though some might find it to be a bit dark, a lot of fans really love that this is the one Transformers movie that dared to take risks with its plot beats, putting beloved Transformers' lives on the line to keep stakes high and maintain the realism of war. For all these pros, there's no getting around the fact that the movie has issues. Its animation quality is often weak, the soundtrack is infused with too much cheesy rock for its own good, and the plot fails to articulate certain points in smart, digestible ways. Still, the movie is a solid 86 Transformers time capsule. It's got a great voice cast, cool robots, it explores surprisingly risky themes. Overall, it sports many or most of the key ingredients that helped get the Transformers franchise where it is today. Transformers: Dark of the Moon marked the first time the franchise really dug deep into historical revisionism for plot points, and it remains the only time it's panned out well. The plot uses moon landing conspiracy theories to its advantage and weaves them into Transformers lore in a way that's both smart and compelling, giving characters from the previous two movies new information that organically feeds into new missions and character arcs. Plus, the finale is basically just 1 hour of breathtaking, uninterrupted robot carnage. For those who only care about seeing Optimus fly a jetpack, swing a sword, and stab robots left and right. Dark of the Moon hits all of Michael Bay's usual beats: pretty stars, hot cars, incredible camera work, breathtaking scope, insane action, and lots of explosions. But this movie, unlike some of Bay's others, backs all of those things up with real heart, real characters, and real storytelling. Plus, the CGI is outstanding, and the soundtrack is killer. Many casual moviegoers and film critics would agree that Michael Bay's first foray into the Transformers universe remains his best. 2007's Transformers is a narratively tight movie that keeps its action, plot, and characters all firmly planted within our reality, though it also leans heavily on the humorous nature of its central sci-fi premise. In this sense, it's almost a Marvel movie. Fun, minimal and melodrama, loaded with quirky, likable characters that operate within a believable yet fantastical universe, and inoffensive. Well, relatively inoffensive.
Bumblebee, stop lubricating the man.
Back in 2007, Transformers set a new bar for creativity and polish in Hollywood visual effects, which remains one of the movie's biggest merits and a key part of why it's remembered so fondly. But it's also beloved for being the starting point of an engaging trilogy centered around Shia LaBeouf, Optimus Prime, and Bumblebee getting into wacky adventures together, with Shia as a relatable stand-in for every kid who's always wanted to meet a Transformer in real life. For many people, Bumblebee is likely to be the most pleasing Transformers movie to date. Though the Michael Bay movies attempted to make everything as cool as possible, Bumblebee takes a step back and focuses almost exclusively on injecting relatable emotion into the performance and arc of its titular robot and lead cast. Spectacle is secondary in Bumblebee, and though that's going to require a substantial gear shift for fans of the previous films to fully appreciate, it's an interesting breath of fresh air for the franchise. Director Travis Knight's style revolves around sensitivity and nuance, and he handles the film's social and interpersonal dynamics with a delicacy and care rarely seen in Hollywood blockbusters. That alone makes this a more easily digestible film than most of the other Transformers flicks. That's why Bumblebee reigns supreme over its competition. It may not indulge in the pure over-the-top action of the Bay-helmed installments, but it's definitely a bit more innocent, as well as a good deal more human.
God, I'm so screwed.
And for a viewing audience that's entirely human, it turns out those qualities really matter.